people think there's a connection between philosophy and how you live your life. And the point I might be making here is that it doesn't improve the way I live my life. A lot of people say you shouldn't regret anything, you know, but I do. I regret a lot of things. I think, well, maybe I shouldn't, but I just do. I've made a lot of mistakes and I regret them. And I think that if you look at, it's not so much that I regret each individual decision, but I notice a pattern of decisions, which seems to me a regrettable pattern. And that pattern is one of not really seeing things through. So my first marriage lasted 6 years, so I didn't see that through. I left philosophy, I didn't see that through. I think I already mentioned that I keep quitting my job with my current employer. Now, each time I did these things, right, I thought I was doing the right thing. I think, you know, for example, my first marriage wasn't a good one. I think it was right to leave it. At the time I quit those jobs, at the time I left philosophy, it always seemed like the right decision. And it's hard for me to go back and say I made the wrong decision, but there's a pattern here, which is clearly there's something slightly wrong with it, and I pay a price for it. So, for example, there was a guy who was a contemporary of mine at Cambridge, and I think he's never had any questions about being an academic philosopher. Well, he's now the Knightbridge Professor of Philosophy at Cambridge. That's a kind of achievement you get by sticking at something. One of my good friends who I joined Oliver Whyte with is now the head of the company, or at least the part that I work for. Again, you know, that's what you get for sticking at your job. So I think I regret that kind of flibbity-gibbet aspect quality. It's a meta regret. It's not. And of course, you know, you get benefits from being a flibbity-gibbet. I hope that maybe now I'll get some of the benefits. So, for example, you know, there aren't many people who know about banking and all that kind of thing that I've learned in my day job, who also know about philosophy, who also know a bit about economics as I do. And, you know, I find increasingly that it's blending, in some of the work I do, it is coming together into a nice blend. So it's kind of a benefit, but still I suspect I should just be a little bit more focused and determined. I'm far less proud of things than I am regretful. And that's not, I'm not trying to make I'm not making a point about my life. My life's gone well. It's not that. I'm making a point about my reaction to events. So I was for 1 year a foreign currency trader. And I absolutely hated it, just as I hate gambling. And it's because regret in me always outweighs pride. So, for example, just to make it clear, if we bet, foreign currency trading is just betting, right? It's just gambling, roughly. So suppose you bet and take a certain position and you're right, and you make a lot of money, or you make it for your client. I never felt any pride in that because I figured it was just luck. Right? And then if things went wrong, I felt miserable. I thought, you idiot! Since you don't know what the outcome is, since you're relying on luck, how stupid to have gambled. So I mean, I can't get any satisfaction. I could get money perhaps from going to a casino if I were lucky, but I couldn't get any satisfaction from it. And I found that this tendency is quite broad. It's not just in matters of luck. So my final year of being an undergraduate at Auckland University, I was doing a philosophy course and I was going pretty well. I knew I was good at that course. And somebody said to me, you could get an A+ in this. Now, A+ then were incredibly rare. There hadn't been an A+ in the Auckland philosophy department for 5 years. And I did get an A+. I went up to the notice board after the elections and there it was, A+. And I was very happy for about 30 seconds. And then I went home and it was gone. The pleasure was completely gone. And I think I get more sustained pleasure and satisfaction out of utterly trivial things. Things aren't really achievements at all, just, you know, hanging around with a friend and chatting. And in terms of, you know, real longer term pride and so on, I'm probably more proud of my daughters and the fact that they seem happy and healthy. And that's more of a source of satisfaction and pride to me than the achievements I've had. You know, so my successes in philosophy in the early days, I'm kind of proud if I reflect on them, but it doesn't give me any pride, but without any warmth. You know, it doesn't give you anything. It seems distant, abstract. Achieving things gives me shockingly little satisfaction. It's good that I don't think about it at the time when I'm working, otherwise I'd never do anything. No, I would do anything. I need the money. a lot of expats, especially New Zealanders, from what I've noticed, and Australians, have a real struggle with this, because though they're similar cultures, New Zealand is a British culture, really. It's being a little Polynesianized, but it's broadly British. Similar cultures, incredibly different lifestyles, especially if you live in London. So it's a very stark choice. And I like the good bits about both places and dislike the bad bits, and they're completely different good and bad bits. And so I don't know where I prefer living. I guess if I were single without children, it would definitely be London. But with children, it's not just for them. I'm not trying to pretend I'm selfless here. It's certainly better for them. But when you're a parent, it's also better for you, because it takes a lot of the pain out of being a parent. So I don't know, maybe forced to go back. It seems to me also the nice development, not forced, the nice development about the modern world is the internet. It's amazing, you know, for years I was publishing in the Times, and nobody knew that I lived in New Zealand. But the whole time I was living in New Zealand for 4 years. In fact, from when I started writing at the Times. Indeed, since I've come back to England, I've been writing for the Times a lot less. I can't seem to get in. So it doesn't, it's increasingly, I think that if you can use the internet for your, it depends what kind of job you're in. But I could now probably, I could even do my day job from New Zealand, because it mainly involves writing and hooking up with, I mean, my company is global, so I could probably do it from there. So I think it's, I just need to work up the courage to believe that I can have a kind of global career from the moon, because effectively New Zealand, you're on the moon, right? But if I could work up that courage, maybe I'd move back, if my wife would let me. I stole that from
Elaine Morgan.
Yeah, but I think it's a good question for people who are, you know, thinking about the big issues, right? So I'm, you know, a lot of my writing is on politics in the broadest sense, and kind of what you might call political philosophy. And so the question arises, you know, do I think things are going in a good direction or a bad direction? And that's what, and I think that they're going, oddly, since most of what I write is critical, that's only really because things aren't, agreeing isn't very interesting. It's much more interesting to disagree, and nobody wants to hear you agree. So people may think that I think things are going in a bad direction, but actually I really don't. The most important reason I'm optimistic is technology, science. People underestimate just how much better life has got because of science in the last, even 50 years, but you know, certainly the last 200. I mean, we used to live literally in shit. Now, you know, the air, people won't believe this, but the air is so much cleaner than it used to be. We have clean water. Our health, I mean, our life expectancy has gone through the roof. There's the internet, which is really an unbelievable resource for people like me. So life is, our mobility, we can all move around unbelievably, and it's not a big deal now to travel all around the world. Almost anybody can do it, any Western person can do it. So, and these are all, to a large extent, the results of improvements in technology and the underlying rule of law and stability of society. I mean, that's kind of background. Now, it seems to me that's provided we keep the basically stable society, and we don't impede the progress of science, life is just going to keep getting better. So I'm really, and I think those two things will happen, so I'm optimistic. Indeed, I'm kind of sad that I'm going to die soonish, because I think that it looks like there are prospects for massively increasing people's life expectancy. You know, this kind of understanding of cells and how they die is improving, and we may be able to keep, science may be able to keep people alive kind of indefinitely, you know, at least, you know, to 150 might not be unusual, older. And I would love to live much longer. I don't want to die. But I guess I'm going to miss that. Anyway, so I'm optimistic. I think my daughters will benefit from all of that stuff. There's only really one thing that makes me a bit pessimistic, which is that it's a normal, it seems to be some kind of historical trend over very long periods of time, I mean, of people forgetting what the foundation of their success is. So they get into a position like we are now, I mean, we're in a recession, but you know, I'm talking big historical terms, yeah, where life is, we were very successful. And people then want to enjoy the fruits of that success very naturally, but they sometimes forget what the success was founded on. And it seems to me that in the 19th century, there was a real effort to create certain kind of culture, certain kinds of attitudes about thrift and self-reliance and all that kind of thing. There was a stiff upper lip and so on. And there's been that's all breaking down now. People don't, for various reasons I won't go on about, but it kind of seems to me that it is breaking down, and that what you might call the Protestant virtues that are the foundation of the social and economic success of the West. It was really when, I don't mean to get at Catholics here, but when the Protestant Revolution occurred, that fueled all sorts of other useful tendencies, science and the Enlightenment and so on. And though we haven't reverted to the kind of pre-Protestant religiosity, we've kind of gone to a post-religious set of values that are not Protestant, right? Where they're kind of getting sloppy, let's say, self-indulgent. I'm not saying I'm not, but it's just that's the way things are going. We're sentimental. People think they're entitled to stuff that they've done, contributed nothing to the production of, and there's a general culture, and I do worry about that. I worry about it a bit. I think that probably hopefully there'll be a reaction against this trend, and we'll bounce back. So broadly, I'm very optimistic. And put it this way, I wish I'd been born later. That's the best statement of optimism, isn't it? I wish I'd been born 50 years later than I was.
Yeah, me too.